It's come to my attention that essentially most people that play Assassin's Creed don't really play with any given playstyle in mind. They kind of just go through the missions, sometimes choose to do stealth, but most of the time just go in guns a-blazing because the combat in most Assassin's Creeds is really easy. Kill and cleave through these enemies and kind of just push through the story, sometimes experimenting with the parkour, sometimes not. And for the most part, play in a very passive way, not really making active choices as to how they're expressing themselves in the way that they play. And a lot of you who know me and a lot of you who know how I like to play from my other channel and the way that I show how I play in the B-roll in these videos, I think there's a lot of enjoyment left on the table if you don't commit to certain playstyle when you're playing Assassin's Creed. And I think there's a lot of different ways to play Assassin's Creed that can cause a lot of enjoyment, a lot of immersion, and more importantly, a lot of self-expression. So what I wanted to do in today's video is give you 3 different playstyles that you could consider using when the next time you play any Assassin's Creed that might increase your immersion, that might increase your commitment and therefore enjoyment to what you're doing. And I think it might also make you understand why someone like me is so passionate about Assassin's Creed and so committed and invested in this franchise. The first and probably most popular or talked about way of playing Assassin's Creed that a lot of people don't do is called ghosting. Just to give you a quick definition for those who don't really know what ghosting is, it's essentially when you go through a level, usually in a stealth game, without killing or incapacitating anyone. Now, the definition can be loosened up much more depending on the game you're playing. For example, Assassin's Creed is a very elimination-based game, so usually ghosting in Assassin's Creed allows for incapacitation, like choking out a guard but leaving them alive, and usually only killing the target, because it's very difficult to complete some missions in Assassin's Creed without killing anyone, because the only way to complete a mission is through killing a target. So the way that you would play this is basically by upholding the tenets of the Assassin's Creed. You essentially want to go completely undetected without killing any guards outside of your main target. It's such a tense and interesting way to play because it immediately increases the difficulty of what is otherwise such an easy game to play. Let's take for example Assassin's Creed Unity. With smoke bombs and phantom blades, you're basically an overpowered beast just cleaving through hordes and hordes of guards in any restricted area. But if you self-impose this restriction of only being able to kill the one target, you suddenly have to account for guard movements and placements. You have to account for your own speed and your own location when you're waiting for guards to move. If you want to choke out a guard, you have to understand that instead of taking 1 second to kill him, it might take 5 or 6 because you have to choke out the guard, which means that a new guard that wasn't currently inside could walk into your line of sight and detect you. All these things kind of increase to the sense of tension that you could feel if you decide to ghost in Assassin's Creed Unity, which is why oftentimes when people ask what kind of style I recommend they try when they're replaying a game, I always go for ghosting, because when you're playing a stealth game, self-imposing the restriction onto a killing machine that they're not allowed to do any killing is the quickest way to have to rely on your wits, on your ability to improvise, on your tools, and on your use of the environment to get to the target that you are trying to kill. The reason why this is so impactful when it comes to immersion in Assassin's Creed is because that's exactly what an assassin would do in the lore. Their final target is the person they want to kill and avoid killing guards as much as possible, or at least they should. They should stay their blade from the flesh of the innocent. They also use their environment, the crowds, and the lines of sight that they have available to avoid being detected by guards. It's very important to not be detected, because if you just run and get detected but just run through guards without them catching you, it can kind of break immersion. So it's very important that you try and stay undetected while you're weaving through these corridors trying to get to the main target. Some Assassin's Creed games allow for ghosting much more than others, but it's very important that you understand how immersive it can be if you truly commit to the idea of not being detected, not killing any guards that aren't your main target, and trying to escape undetected once you've killed that main target too. The best game to do this, the best game to ghost in my opinion, is Assassin's Creed Unity or Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because the black box mission design kind of leaves it very open-ended for you, where you don't have to follow some sort of set path and follow some sort of scripted event, and it's still going to look incredibly cinematic because the graphics are kind of good enough to sustain that. Another game that I think is very, very good for ghosting is Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I also recommend that you try playing in permadeath mode ghosting if you really want to challenge and really want to feel immersed in how the assassin would do it. And that kind of leads into the second playstyle that I recommend, which is the canon-friendly way of playing an Assassin's Creed game. Now, the caveat to this is that you have to be a pretty big Assassin's Creed fan, because you have to understand a lot about the character that you're playing as. What this playstyle entails is essentially playing not only as any given assassin, but playing in the style that the assassin from the story would play as. For example, Arno would tackle a mission very differently to the way that Connor would tackle a mission. If you're playing Assassin's Creed 3, for example, you would adopt the playstyle of assassin that's much more brutal, much more comfortable with combat, less of a fan of stealth, and if he is doing stealth, he's making pretty brutal stealth kills with his dart, like choking enemies or stabbing someone with a gun in the most loud fashion while staying in stealth. What you need to do for this playstyle to be really immersive is, first of all, probably have played through the game at least once to understand how this character develops and what the things they believe in are. And secondly, understand what tools you have available to you. And if you want to improve in terms of technique and what you can do, you should watch Leo K videos, Jacer's videos, or Treviso Stealth videos. These are the three main guys, as well as Kinography, that really understand and know how to play these games to the highest level. And once you watch some of their videos, you can understand what kind of options are available to you gameplay wise, and you can match those options to whatever character you're playing as. For example, if you're Connor, you kind of want to get really good at combat and prioritize combat over stealth. If you're Arno, you want to do very flashy and very fast stealth. And if you're Altair, for example, you want to do very precise and very calculated stealth that only kills high priority targets. The reason why I think this is such a great playstyle is because it changes from game to game, if sometimes for something like ghosting gets repetitive, and it also allows you to get in the shoes of the character you're playing as, which means the cutscenes suddenly become much more impactful because you're almost role-playing as the character in a way that doesn't break the lore, like adding fucking dialogue options or whatever Ubisoft decided to do. So this second way of playing, which is canon-friendly playing, where you're basically playing as the character would act in any mission, is incredibly rewarding because it encourages you to engage not just on a gameplay level, but also on a narrative level. And that leads me into the third option, which is purely narrative. This usually works in games that have high customizability or high gameplay variety. These are games like Assassin's Creed Mirage that gives you a lot of tools and a lot of different upgrades to those tools. Assassin's Creed Unity that gives you a lot of visual customizability, but also a lot of tools. Or maybe something like Assassin's Creed 3 or Black Flag that gives you a lot of options and tools on how to go about killing a target. What you do in this third playstyle is basically make your own assassin. You want to make sure they're always hooded up so you can't see their face, and you kind of create your own backstory. This is for the nerdiest of nerds, by the way. You don't have to do this if you're just a casual player. If you're a serious nerd about Assassin's Creed, what you want to do is create your own assassin, your own backstory that is set in this backdrop. For example, if you're playing Assassin's Creed Unity, you forget you're playing as Arno and you write a backstory for a French assassin who's part of the French Brotherhood. And you tell yourself, like, how would this assassin act? How would this assassin go through the story that I'm currently going through? How would they complete these missions? You select some sort of play style or characteristic that they would be known as, and you basically play as them the whole time. So for example, in Assassin's Creed Unity, you can select some medieval armor with a heavy sword, some loud guns, and kind of play as like this brutal, heavy assassin that has high health but low speed and likes engaging in combat a lot instead of stealth. Or you can go the other way and give your assassin a katana, some high stealth stat armor, and basically become like some sort of ninja in the French Revolution. The reason why I like this is because Assassin's Creed, from a gameplay perspective, for the most part, is a very replayable franchise, especially Assassin's Creed Mirage and Assassin's Creed Unity, in my personal opinion. They're very, very replayable in terms of missions, but usually you kind of get tired of the story, the cutscenes, and the same old kind of framing that you're given, because a lot of the times Assassin's Creed story, and the newer games especially, can be pretty bland and pretty boring once you play through it a lot of the times. So in order to become more excited about playing the games again, or just roaming around the world, you can create your own character and your own narrative that you tell in your own head. Personally, this is one of my favorite ways to play, especially when I've already done the other two, when I've already done the ghosting playthrough, when I've already done the canon-friendly playthrough. I like just kind of like inventing my own stories, and I really recommend that you do this as well. It's something that can really add to the immersion, and for me, immersion is one of the key factors that makes Assassin's Creed so special, which is something that I discuss in this video that you can watch now, where I discuss some weird and wonderful places in Assassin's Creed that really make me feel like this is a living and breathing world that adds to my immersion, and you can watch this video now.